Oh my goodness, let me tell you how frustrating it is to get into this live stream. Good morning, everybody. My name is Teri Hunter, and I've been sitting here for like 5 minutes watching the thing go around and around and around. How's everybody this morning? I hope you're well. Good to see you, Michelle. Thanks for joining. Hi, Juan. Okay. Hi, Cece Pups. Hi, everybody. Okay, here we go. So it's a big week. I did a video on the new moon yesterday. So we have that that's happening on the 28th, which is next Tuesday here in the United States. It might be the 29th for those of you on the other side of the world. Good morning, Natalia. Good to see you. On the same day, we have Neptune going retrograde. It hasn't really come on my radar over the last few weeks. And when I realized that they were happening on the same day, I also realized that we've been in this storm, aka shadow period of Neptune going retrograde. And we've seen some pivotal things happen in politics this week. Good morning, Karen. Welcome to the chat. And that kind of led me on this sort of, I'm pulling on the thread of this, and I'm starting to see myself correlate things back to historic times. So I want to talk a little bit about Neptune going retrograde. I'm going to focus in on what house that is for you all based on your rising sign. This is whole sign Western astrology. And but before I start there, I want to remind you that we're going to start with Cancer today and work our way to Gemini. That's kind of the new thing I'm doing so that it feels fair to everybody. So I'm going to start of the month of what the astrological sign is. Welcome, Joshua. So here we go. Let's talk about what Neptune represents. Neptune represents fantasy and spirituality. And when I say spirituality, I mean it in all its forms, from deeply religious people to people who would consider themselves not religious but spiritual. It's a house that it's where we kind of it's the last house before we go into the mass consciousness, back into the peace soup of where our souls come back from. I'm not saying this very well. I had better notes here. Let me turn the page. Okay, so Neptune in Pisces is going to represent not just spiritual leaders and religious leaders, different than it would in Sagittarius. This is more of a reflective time. When I think of Sagittarius and I think of religion, I think of like Catholic Church. When I think of Pisces in the 12th house, I think of ashrams, I think of temples, I think of monks, and people that have devoted their life on some level to spirituality, to honoring what cannot be seen. And so this brings me to the idea that as Neptune goes retrograde, and it will go retrograde on the day of the new moon in Cancer, and that day is 6/28/2022. That number reduces down to a 22. That's a master number of cooperation, master number of commingling, a master number of understanding the ebb and the flow of co-creation and how we work within a cooperative system. And then I was sort of inspired to say, well, okay, so Pisces is going to be retrograde until December. It will go direct on the 3rd of December at the 22nd degree. Very interesting. So it's going from the 25th degree back to the 22nd degree, and then it will move forward again, completing its sojourn through Neptune and entering Aries, I believe, in 2026. Now, this is interesting because this kind of correlates with some other things throughout history. I happen to notice that America's Civil War started on April 12th, 1861. This is when Neptune had moved into Aries. And it was a conflict over humane principles. And here we go again, seeing this idea that we are revisiting humane principles in many ways. The United States just overturned a very significant legislation in Roe versus Wade, and it has sent the people in this country into, many of us are in outrage over the whole thing. And I have to tell you, it's really surprising to me on some level, and then it isn't, because when I look at the United States, Pluto return opposing Mercury in the 8th house of Cancer, that makes sense to me, because 8th house naturally rules sex and aberrated sex, dark sex, and good sex, but also the dark elements of sex. So as we walk through this retrograde, this is where I'm going with this whole idea. I think that as individuals, we get to sort of think more about those universal laws and the law of attraction and the laws of our focus and the ebb and the flow and the cause and the effect. And if I'm going to war or to fight against what I think is unfair, am I mirroring a warlike energy that is out of balance? And how can I perpetrate my opinion in a way that supports a win-win? I think this is ultimately what we are striving for as a human race, is to be able to create a win-win. So when Neptune, and I looked up the United States chart because I wanted to know, where was Neptune when the United States was conceived? In 1776, Neptune was in the 9th house of Virgo, which is very interesting to me because Virgo rules health, and it rules enslavement, and it rules pets and things like that. But I'm kind of going back to the idea of us revisiting these ideas in this time that on some way are mirroring principles from a previous time. On the 12th of April in 2025, Neptune will be at 0 degree Aries. Mercury will be at 27 degrees Pisces, conjunct the North Node, Saturn, and Venus, all on the cusp of the 4th house for the United States. The reason I say this is because there's a ramp up and a building, and I feel a building of tension, a building of anger, a building of energies that appear to be just on the onset, but are they just when we think about the idea of we are perpetrating the same energy to extinguish what we think is negative? So as I was thinking about all this, and I was thinking about the idea that the new moon in Cancer, which is the sun for the United States, we know the 4th of July is coming up. I feel like, what if we as a tribe, 24 people right now in the room, 22, 2 just left, 22, love it. What if we, rather than being incensed or getting on social media and railing against this, what if we spent time commingling with spirit, commingling with source energy, commingling with all that is, and inquiring or calling forth the idea that we would be of cooperation to the illumination of this imbalance, and then go about it in a different way? What if we, as a tribe, applied the laws of attraction to the balance of this situation so that we could attract to us our higher vibrations of these dynamics versus the Neptune ruling propaganda and deception and secrecy? And the 12th house also rules hospitals and research. So on some level, it also rules the physical body in tandem with its opposition of Virgo, the access of it. So I feel as if we can, and the other thing about Neptune is it rules escapism. And escapism is often referred to as addiction, but it can be many other things. A form of escapism is, in some ways, to be righteous against what we think is wrong. So I guess where I'm trying to go in this way is I feel like as this Neptune retrograde takes place, and we know Saturn is retrograde and Pluto is retrograde, and all of these planets are going to start to move forward again by the end of 2022. So what if we set an intention to be fluid like water, to be rising like the phoenix, and to look at Saturn as really offering us reward when we're willing to do the hard work of allowing other people to have an opinion we don't agree with. And in doing so, calling forth through spirit, through source energy, a mirroring from the other side. If I allow or I give birth to or I open a space for you to have an opinion or have an idea that I don't agree with, can I implement the laws of attraction and the law of allowing for you to have the same open space for my differing opinion? Because when I think about this overturning of this ruling, I'm really horrified, and it's not by the act of abortion. It's more about the abuse that an unwanted child will sustain throughout their life and how that perpetrates the imbalance of this planet. So I don't really want to get into, is it right or wrong to allow these things to take place? And I don't want to just go to the idea that a person has been sexually assaulted and that should be the reason that they get that it's okay to have an abortion. I did not come from loving parents. And I remember being 10 or 11 years old and saying, if you were going to be like this as a parent, why did you even have us? And abortion was not legal when I was born. So my parents didn't have an answer because I'm pretty sure they just did the deed and they didn't really worry about what was going to happen. So my viewpoint as an individual is not in this moment of exterminating this embryo, but rather what will happen as that embryo develops into a child, and then that child develops into an adult that does not feel loved, does not feel cherished. And then I imagine that a child like that would go into a school and shoot up a bunch of other children. This is a domino effect. And we can't do anything about the momentum of that except stand in our own energy and put forth an intention to perpetrate wisdom throughout this. So I think this is super important. And I want to take this to the level of Neptune really representing that higher vibration of fluidity, allowing the ocean and the tides to ebb and to flow, and really kind of standing on the principles of what this country was built on, which is freedom of speech, of opinion, of prayer, of worship, and to treat our bodies the way that we want to treat them. There's been this role, I can't even tell you how many times at night, you guys know I watch a lot of television, and I can't get that mute button fast enough for those commercials, because you can bet your bottom dollar each one is going to start off telling you some level of your body isn't going to work right as you age. And I'm just kind of over that whole thing, I got to tell you. History, we hear the sign, history tends to repeat itself, but I think it's an opportunity really than a problem, because it's an opportunity to walk through the same disruptive dynamic and perpetrate a more balanced vibration. Thank you so much. I couldn't remember the years when that happened, Shelley. I was alive when Roe versus Wade was at its height of controversy, and it really does blow my mind that we are revisiting this idea. So, yes, they are always louder, Lucy Rose, and that comes from way back in the day when they used to have like the Lay's potato chip person and the popcorn guy, and people used to get up and go to get a snack before they were, in between commercials, because you would run back to watch the TV, because if you missed anything, you couldn't rewind back in the day. So, Shelley, I was in junior high. I actually graduated junior high in 1974. So I remember all of this very, very clearly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to focus in on Neptune today and what house will be based on your rising sign. We're going to start with Cancer, and then we're going to work our way towards Gemini. I did a full moon. I did a new moon video yesterday and put that out. So I'm going to not talk about that as much. You can check out that video. And so that's where I'm going to go. But I really want to encourage us all to try not to be too inflamed by what we're seeing right now, because I feel like that inflammation, that anger, that frustration creates an unconscious focus in an area that will then attract more of what we don't want to experience. I feel like, because I got to tell you, I'm very concerned that the United States is going to revisit the activities of 1861 to 1865, if you get where I'm drifting here. And what I'm hoping for is, in the years that lead up to Neptune moving into Aries, I would like to see us start to use our mercurial dynamics, what we think, what we speak, and what we read, and how we teach others about ourselves, about who we are. So if we start to say, when I move into this disillusionment, when I move into this place of being incensed and angry about this dynamic, am I contributing to its balance, or am I contributing to its imbalance? And then kind of trying to shift and say to Spirit, thank you for letting me be an agent of balance. Thank you for me being an agent of being able to hold space for people who I don't agree with, for people who I believe are wrong, straight up wrong. Because I don't know if we won't continue to repeat these cycles until we make these kind of choices that aren't about picking up a weapon to exterminate what we think is bad, but rather holding accountability for our focus during this period of time. I'll tell you a quick story. There was a woman years ago who, there was a street. We've got this one street in Newport Beach called Jamboree. And there was another street that you could make a left-hand turn, and it had no light, I believe. I can't quite remember if it had a light or didn't have a light. But this one woman was just freaked out that this was a very dangerous. And she went to great lengths. She went to the city. She went on a crusade, essentially, to stop this corner from having accidents. She died on that corner. And I thought it was very interesting to me, because they have since blocked it off. But I couldn't help but see the idea of her focus, her concern about how it could potentially hurt people. And I'm not saying she was responsible for the accident, but I do believe that our focus, our thoughts, are things that create experiences. So rather than trying to fight what we don't agree with, what if we, and this is going to sound really obnoxious right now, what if we do a little Gandhi and we start to be the change that we want to see in the world? So we don't have to acquiesce our opinion. We don't have to give up our power. But how we use that power and how we use our words and our thoughts, I think will be very powerful for making these next few years, rather than them being chaotic and crazy and really defeating, because we find people that we thought we could trust as leaders being not who we thought they were, or being part-time who we thought they were. So I just kind of want to offer this. When you're experiencing these things as you walk through your little part of the world, what can we can't do anything. There is no doing, but we can be something. That's what we can be. Okay, so let's start. I pulled tarot cards for the week, and then we're going to do the readings. We're going to start with Cancer. I am focusing on Neptune right now. So I'm going to talk about Cancer having Pisces as their 9th house. And let's start with the tarot card. What does Cancer, happy birthday, Cancer, by the way. And you have the lovely Knight of Cups. This kind of really goes with what I'm saying, is really how can we as an individual, look at even the little fishies on there. So Cancer, this is your sign, this is your month, this is your moon, and what can you do to feel loved and more? I feel like when I look at this, there's a sense of this horse almost makes me feel like it's enjoying itself, as if it's looking at the water and it's like playing a little game with the water. And what if that water is my emotional body? And what if this knight is saying, I can stand on these 3 legs and still hold space for what is happening here? I think this is super important. The knights represent the teenagers in the deck, so they can be changeable. If we were doing a reading with the tarot, I would look to see what the other cards were to see which way this particular knight's energy is going to fall. But for me, I really think this time, because look at the little wings on his shoes, right? So that kind of gives me the feeling of Mercury. And I feel like the fish is asking us to be fluid in our thoughts and to offer our cup of love, even if the cup feels like it's empty. See how it kind of appears empty? We also see the wings here. Very interesting. So let's do our readings. What happened? Wait, did you get 90-day notice from work or from home? Small wildflowers. All right, here we go. Cancer, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This is based on rising sign, so that puts Pisces as your 9th house of beliefs, of philosophy, of foreign travel, foreign people, of philanthropic ideas. It's also the connection to the angelic realm. So our first angel for Cancer is Archangel Michael. The second is Shanti, the angel of peace. The third is Rochelle, the angel of my heart. And then there's Indriel. It's funny when I say these things, about how we show up, I'm not necessarily expecting people to be pacifists, and because I feel like that's almost too polarizing away from the warrior energy, as much as it really is just this idea of holding space, also maybe called giving grace to another as you watch them kind of work themselves up. And as they work themselves up, I feel like if we are able to kind of step back and say, is that vibration going to be effectual? Because I think oftentimes it's not. And I think most of us have had arguments with other humans. And what we see with that is that we don't really listen. If you watch a soap opera, they argue so funny because nobody interrupts anybody on a soap opera because it's not a real argument. But real people, they bolt back and forth because they're so wanting to be heard. My point is this. Archangel Michael is asking Cancer to have courage to look at where your focus is. And is that focus aligned to what you want to experience, or is it in some ways mirroring what's happening, which is fear? Because Spirit would like you to be of peaceful thought and to realize that one of the universal laws is that every experience is neutral. It is the human that assigns value to it. So Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to focus on what you believe is the most loving thing, not necessarily trying to pick a right or a wrong side, because fear is running amok. And if we're not careful, we'll start to believe that everything that is fearful is true. And I want us to start to think that that fear is an opportunity to face everything and rise, to false evidence appearing real, and then to be the perpetrator of peace. Because I can't even believe this came out. There's the Queen. It's about fertility. What are we talking about here? This is crazy. And Rochelle is saying to honor and follow the guidance of your heart, because Indriel is the light worker and asking you to shine your light on this earth. And then we see the owl. And from Spirit's point of view, I have to say, they are always showing me that the black and the white of life, the dark and the light, neither is good, but both serve a purpose. And I feel as if this is an opportunity for all of us to pay attention to our focus. I remember years ago when Ronald Reagan was in office, Nancy decided that her, first lady thing was going to be the war on drugs. And I remember hearing Spirit and Abraham say, a war on drugs just creates more war. So Abraham was very much talking about the idea of, rather than mirroring an energy to try to balance it, it's more about being the energy you want to experience. So I think for my Cancers, as Neptune is traversing your 9th house of beliefs, of your connection to the angelic realm, can you be courageous in this moment to only pay attention to your focus? And can you, in your best efforts, do your part to be of peace of mind, to follow your heart, and to say, right now, I know that if I stand in this loving energy, Spirit will bring things for me to receive, to experience, in order to fulfill this cup and represent for others. Because I think what this owl is doing is saying that Cancer has an opportunity to be a light worker, to be of a light energy, to be of a loving vibration as we go through back and forth through these concepts. I honestly I don't even know where all this is coming from, but meaning the whole idea of Roe versus Wade. But to me, overall, this is an assault on the human physical body. And this goes back to the last 2 years. This goes back to all the prescription drugs that are pushed harder than a drug dealer pushes his crack on the street. It is out of whack. So if we, and Cancer being the ultimate nurturing energy, the nurture of self is to believe that there's a bigger picture going on. And as we walk through this apparent storm, we have an opportunity to represent what happens when our focus is not on what can kill us, but what can give us life. That's the way I kind of want to put it. I hope that makes sense. Tangent's a great word, Lucy Rose. I was watching TikTok last night, and there was a guy that was going off on Clarence Thomas, and while I didn't necessarily agree with the general gist of his opinion, I did disagree with how he was showing up about it, and that's kind of what inspired me today to bring up the idea of if we mirror the energy of all this imbalance, we're just going to have a big do-over again. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Pisces is your 8th house. This is really, really transformational. Let's see what your tarot card is this week. The 6 of Swords. The 6 of Swords represents travel in some respects. It also represents moving away from sorrow and moving into more calm waters. And we see this apparently looks like a family. There's a little child there. What I would assume is a female. She does not look necessarily happy. This is a card of sorrow as well. So we're going to move from sorrow into calmer waters. But I also think that the wall of swords in front of these characters is preventing them from being able to see beyond what their mind is focused on. And the only one who's really getting an opportunity to see the land offered ahead is the one doing the rowing, doing the hard work. So I think for my Leos, and Leo rules children, the conception of children. So as you walk through this time, these next few months, and this isn't going to go away overnight, these issues are going to continue to be brought up as they come into balance. So I feel, Leo, this is a real opportunity for you to allow yourself to move past what you see in the way of sorrow and start to give life to the idea that there is a bigger picture going on. Okay, here we go. Let's see what the angels have to say, because I believe that there's an opportunity to rise like the phoenix. And I feel like these next couple of years feel very much as if they are an opportunity to see the ramp up of the imbalance and decide to go about things in a different way. Rejection can very much be protection. I don't really think of the Six of Swords as rejection per se, but there does feel like sorrow and loss. And when I look at the way the ocean is, it feels like it's an emotional loss. So again, we're just using one card in connection with these other cards. If we were doing a full tarot spread, I'd probably be able to figure out what the sorrow was about. So here we go. Leo, our first angel is Oceana. The second is Serena. The third is Chantal. And the final is Archangel Michael. Thank you, Lucy Rose. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Joshua. Sending love out to you. All right, Leo. Oceana is being joined by the King. Wow. Serena's being joined by the Wasp. Chantal is being joined by the Love card. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the Fear card. Wow. Second reading, second exact same combination. All right. Leo, we know you rule the zodiac. And I want to say that this is about fairness and justice. It does pertain to law and men, male energy, but I want to offer it this way because I do think it's karma and I do think it's justice. And I think that for my Leos, this is an opportunity to swim up through the sea of your emotions and to focus in on the justice that will take place. The idea that as we move forward, the overturning of things like this, the changing of the guard, let's say, into an old dynamic that makes us feel like we're back in the washing machine, this won't happen again. So I want you to start to focus in on the idea that your emotional body will help support justice, not only for yourself in your own personal experience, but for what you are walking through around the world. Because while Serena usually refers to money, I think this is about serenity versus anger. God is in charge of how my abundance will show up. Source energy, the collective being mindful of their own thoughts will help this combination. This is ultimately what feels like is going on. Am I going to choose serenity or am I going to choose to be pissed off? This wasp is no frivolous energy. When it shows up, it's on fire because Chantal and the Love card are in the angel's advice. And I could put this into love of another human, but we also want to feel safe to flourish within love in our environments, in our everyday lives. I can't even begin to tell you how there's a weird ripple effect. I live by the beach, so it's summertime and it gets super crazy over the weekends, not just mentioned during the week. But boy, the traffic and people screaming at each other on the street, it is truly amazing to me right now. So what I think is the angels are saying that if we step into serenity, we will start to be the perpetrators of not love. I don't want to even put, because love feels like it's like a privilege. I feel like it's acceptance. I feel like it's compassion for a soul that is in the illusion. And the illusion is that the body supersedes the soul. And I believe the body is a vessel for the soul. So when a soul incarnates to a family that does not appreciate it, there is a reason for it. It's not just to victimize the soul of that person or that child. And if for some reason we get into a situation where the most loving thing to do is to not follow through, not take obligated action. This is what Saturn has been talking to us about. Saturn has been wanting to evolve past obligated action into inspired action and then applying Saturnian dynamics to that inspired action. So again, we as a tribe of humans or souls inhabiting a human experience get to be courageous in our fear and face everything and rise above it. And I think that this is where we really go back to, is rising being a stingy energy that's pointing a finger at another and saying you're wrong? Or is there a serenity that we hold space for so that the party we feel is not standing in alignment will see through the eyes of love? That's what I believe. Okay, let's go on to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. If there's anybody new in the chat, I am starting these readings with the month of the astrological sign. So we started with Cancer and we're going to work our way towards Gemini. Lucy Rose, I did not pay any attention to that trial of Amber and Johnny. I just feel like, as a person who sits here every Sunday and helps you align to your week and to what you want to experience, those kind of energies to me feel very disruptive and very they pull my focus in an area I don't want to go. So I have no idea what that whole thing is about. I have no idea what she accused him of. I think it was abuse of some kind, but this is what I want to try to help y'all do. If that incenses you, if you laugh at that trial or you find it humorous in some way and it doesn't kind of gas you up in a challenging way, knock yourself out. But if you find yourself being incensed, it's why I don't watch the news and why I literally think I do not take any drugs. I do not take statin drugs. I barely take an aspirin because I think that there is those weird side effects. I don't want to deal with it. So I just really feel like all of this is crescendoing in a crazy way, or what appears a crazy way, because as new generations show up, they think it's normal. And us of a certain age have to remind them that's not normal. All right, let's go on to our Virgo, 7th house of partnerships for you. Let's see here we go, Virgo. We have the infusion of something in the material. I could call it money. I could call it cash. But for some reason, it feels like something a little bit bigger than that for me. We'll see in the spread, because the first thing I saw for my Virgos was this road. And it almost feels like I'm walking into a secret garden. And I feel like it's important to feel that energy of what a secret garden could be. I think of it sort of as a place of serenity, a place to commingle with nature, a place to feel the vibration of more than just this human experience. So let's see. Our first angel for Virgo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Neptune is transiting your 7th house. So when we talk about Neptune in general, we're going to look at in some ways, am I escaping what's going on in my contractual partnerships? Am I fooling myself and living in a fantasy? Or am I willing to see clearly? Because I think that's part of what's going on here, is this opportunity to see clearly, because I want to kind of go to the idea of mental health for Virgo. And I'm not saying that I feel like you're having anxiety. I feel like it's more about making sure that you're taking care of your mental health and only addressing the things that you can address in a way that perpetrates balance versus trying to be overly obligatory to your partnerships, and that includes your contractual professional partnerships. All right, here we go. Oh, Virgo, our first angel is Athena. It's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself. The second is Indriel, the light worker. The third is Ariel. And the final is Omega. You know, I really want to offer the idea that even though we feel like a small little group of people, I do believe we are powerful in our ability to send an energetic ripple out into the universe. And if indeed each day we said to ourselves, thank you, Spirit, for having me be a perpetrator of balance. Thank you for me walking a conscious path. For me, yesterday, this guy was sitting below my window in a Lamborghini for like 15 minutes, just sitting there revving his engine. I got to tell you, I was so freaking annoyed with this guy. And I could feel myself being like, don't do it, stay away. And then the next thing you know, I'm marching out my front door. And thank God he drove away, because honestly, I didn't have anything nice to say. And I knew what I was feeling was not going to be constructive. And this is the struggle that I'm having back and forth. It's like there's a part of me that wants to school people for their myopic little world they're living in. And then when I don't do it, I actually feel better, because you know what? They're not going to listen to me anyway, because I'm not coming up with an energy towards them that's productive. Okay, Athena, Athena is saying it is safe for you to lovingly assert yourself and engage others to help you. Virgo, it tends to do things in such a thorough way, is the way I want to say it. When I think of a Virgo knows how to cross their I's, dot their T's. Did I just say that? Cross their I's and dot their T's? You know what I meant. Because I feel like maybe in this moment, if you are feeling overwhelmed, it would be a good idea to unload some of that and start to delegate to another, especially if we're talking about professional relationships. Indriel is here, saying you're the light worker, and then asking, the Lady of the Lake is asking you to be courageous in your self-respect. Because if you're being overworked and underpaid, if you're being taken advantage of in some way, it's time to take care of you. Ariel is being joined by the Raven, and Omega is being joined by the Focus card. Okay, this is now becoming a very strong theme, because we've seen this Focus card come out 3 times. And I want to offer this to you, because during disruption, to keep our mind focused on a higher vibration is not always easy. In fact, it might be very, very challenging. And at the same time, you do not have to be perfect at this. I feel as if this delegating of authority could very well be in the work. For some reason with Virgo, I'm not really feeling the intimate relationship as much as this feels like some sort of obligatory relationship. So I'm going to work. I'm going to my professional life, or people that I'm of service to in some way. And now I think as you lovingly assert yourself into allowing someone else to pick up a little bit of the slack, and having the courage to say so, to express yourself lovingly, I need help. Because Ariel is saying that the timing is right for you to actually experience support. And you may actually be surprised because I think Neptune is a very compassionate energy. And just because it's going retrograde doesn't mean it doesn't still have compassion there. So if you are able to focus in and align yourself to, I know that I'm going to be helped. I know that that's where the victory lies, is in teamwork in some way. And now my focus is going to be that it's okay for me not to take care of everything. The Virgos that I know, that I've known in my life, my dad was a Virgo, my grandfather was a Virgo, my brother-in-law is a Virgo. They were all charming men. They were all, I think, I mean, I bitch about my dad, but he was very loving and he was a very good friend to other people. Not the greatest dad, but not the worst dad in the world, just sort of a table for one guy. But I do think in this instance that Virgo will feel less, I guess you'll enjoy being of service more. Let me put it that way. I know that Virgo, we're talking about the seventh house here, but Virgo by nature is going to be dependable, is going to be practical, is going to follow through, get the job done. And sometimes in getting the job done, they are like, just let me do it myself, because if you do it, it's not going to be done well. And this is kind of where I think maybe the timing is right for you to allow somebody else to take care of it. And even if they don't do it your way, they will do it their way. And you can feel victorious in the idea that you held space and allowed it to happen. So this could be the unraveling of a bit of a burden for you. And here we are in a week of a new moon. The idea that this is the other thing, I hope I mentioned it, I think I did, but 6/28/2022 is a 22. It reduces down to a 22. I'm not reducing that down to a 4. I'm going to keep it at that master number of cooperation, of compassion for self, as you recalibrate your ability to allow others to help you in the way that they are able to. And then you can go in and polish it up a little bit if you want. But you will be victorious in your focus, and you will start to see things change in the material world. Now we get 33 of us. I love it. There's the 33, the number. We start doing this in our little places in the world. We're going to start to see a vibrational shift, and that can help us get some momentum going. Okay, let's go on to our Libras. Pisces is your 6th house. Let's see what your tarot card is this week. We have the 3 of Pentacles. This is funny because the 6th house is the house of service and work. And this is a card that represents contracts and work, working with a team. It also represents a bit of a Capricorn energy. So let's see what we're going to be talking about. How is Neptune and this, because I want to offer this too. As Neptune is going retrograde, is giving us an opportunity to see where we are over delivering to others, where we may be escaping a situation because we don't want to confront it. And it's also an opportunity to have compassion for ourselves as we align sometimes with the mutable signs. Pisces is mutable by nature. I feel as if in the cooperation with others that they lose themselves. So Libra also has a tendency to be cooperative to others, doesn't like to confront in arguments unless you're me and have an Aries rising. So I think this is really an opportunity for Libra to see how to purport balance. So let's see, and in the workplace specifically, because that tarot card is a workplace. Lucy Rose, you have your moon conjunct Chiron in Taurus. I have a 9-degree moon in Taurus. So there's been an emotion. What house is that, by the way? I'd be curious, because that's a wound that has something to do with your emotional body, your nurturing body, your intuitive body. Okay. Woo! All right. Our first angel is Rosetta, Libra. That involves children, working with children, helping, teaching, parenting. We have Maya, the angel of schooling and education. We have Chantal, the angel of love and romance. And then we have Celeste, Okay. 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 Got it. Oops. Okay. Libra. Rosetta is being joined by the restriction card. Maya is being joined by the swan. Chantal is being joined by the queen. And Celeste is being joined by the goblin. Okay. So, Ruth, I don't know if balanced is actually stationary. I think that balance is like a seesaw. You're like this all the time. And sometimes you're like this, and then sometimes you're like this. And I think it's more about enjoying this little idea of this movement. Because Libra, I would imagine that Pisces being the sixth house of health, meaning hospitals, research, and then the sixth house representing service. And here we are with children. This plays right to what we've seen in the news. So fitting, exactly. And I think right now, the restriction card is about taking a pause and taking a pause about how am I showing up in my team efforts. And this could be work, it could be, I don't know if you're working with children, but what I want to say this is that children at this point, I don't want to make it like they have to be under 10 or 12. I feel at 62 years old, anybody who's in their 40s maybe or younger is like a child to me. I could be their mom. And so I feel like my behavior, how I show up is important. And if I'm incensed about something or I'm upset about something, how do I represent that? Because it's okay to be upset about something, because I think the restriction is about a pause. And the pause is not just for the children in your life, but the child inside of you and how that child feels. Um, when we're younger, we kind of support the idea of making things fun for children. We make everything colorful and soft and cozy and cuddly. And then you get to be like first grade and all that kind of goes away. And we feel this sort of Saturnian blanket drop on top of us. And I feel like when I'm looking at this Rosetta and this restriction card, it's really a sort of a reflection about how am I treating my inner child? How am I being compassionate to it? Am I escaping a little bit? Because sometimes I want to escape. And then I think, no, here's my opportunity. My opportunity is to really transform from the ugly duckling to the swan, and to take note that this plane of the universe, this earth plane, is about contrast. It is about the ebb and the flow, the dark and the light. So as the soul incarnates into it, the soul has a perfect landscape to make choices for evolution, because now is a time to trust a bigger picture. I got to tell you, while this particular situation was overturned, the Roe versus Wade, I absolutely believe it's going to be not only reversed, it's going to be reversed in a way that turns out better than it did before. Because Chantal is about a resurgence of love. The queen represents fertility and the feminine energy. And I say feminine rather than female because I don't think that this is about female. I think it's about the law of gender. Everything has a natural receptive energy and a natural action energy. So now I feel like what we are learning is how to connect with an intuitive part of ourselves. To the human will see the experiences in their life, and they will start to base what can happen in the future on what they've experienced right now. And I don't know if that's going to work. So here in the final position, Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, you're having an opportunity to have a shift in the way you're thinking. Celeste can talk about a move or a new home, which could be in play. I would take that more if we were doing an individual reading. But for me, wherever you put me, I think a certain way. And I'm not going to change that just because I have a new job or a new home. So now, is my way of thinking edging God out? Maybe I need to take a pause and see that sometimes disruption is divinely created or divinely inspired so that we can identify something that looks imbalanced but isn't. And when I think about the idea that Pluto is opposing Mercury in the United States natal chart. Mercury rules children of school age. I think of grammar school. And if we think about all of the things going on outside of this bill being reversed or whatever they call it, this is how little I pay attention to the news. I don't even know what to call this ruling other than obscene. So I want to offer for my Libras to take a moment this week and to see if you really are working in a team with your own desires. And if indeed the teams you're working with are in alignment with the truth of who you are. Because if indeed this plays out to, I'm not sure I'm in the right place. I remember years ago working in an office with somebody who had very different views than I had about life. And this man was assaulting about it. He would just rail about it. He would say very bad things about people when they left the room. And as I observed this, I saw myself becoming more incensed by his behavior. And I wanted to school him on his behavior. And I did once. I will say I did when he came at me. But other than that, I realized that I wasn't really going to do anything but mirror his behavior in my disgust of how he perceived things, because I was truly disgusted by the way he was behaving. So as I've gotten older, I've realized that doesn't really get me anywhere. So I want to offer my Libras, rather than going passive aggressive or going underground, how can you stand in this restriction and really check in on what you need on a soul level? What are you willing to learn in your own transformation so that you can stand in better energy of feeling love and being a harbor or perpetrator of love and of love? When I say love, I think of compassion. I think of allowing for the differences that make us the unique people and individuals that we are. I even hate to refer to us as people, souls, because I really believe this is an opportunity for you to shift and to start to see a wisdom in the disruption. And within that wisdom, there'll be a sense of solace, a sense of comfort. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios. This is your 5th house, Pisces. Thibaut, so great to see you in the room. It's so nice to have you back on sort of a regular basis. All right. Oh, we love this. Scorpio, the Queen of Pentacles. I love this card. This represents, our earth signs. In the 5th house, I feel like this is an opportunity for Scorpio to actually feel more 5th house things within the material world. And look at this little bunny here. That little bunny feels very prolific to me. And then we have this little child sitting underneath the chair. And if you look closely, you can see it looks like a goat to me, but I think of it as, well, any earth sign this would be. This would be Taurus, Capricorn, or Virgo. And it's about bringing money into the material world, bringing something into the material world that really aligns to what you want to experience at this level right here. What you're sitting on. Everywhere on this throne, we see little children. And we could think of them as cherubs, but I think of them more as the inner child. I'm 62 years old. I'll be 63 in October, and I am as close to my childhood today as I was when I lived it. I feel like the same person. I remember things very clearly. And so as a adult, I feel like it's important for me to honor the child rather than always be annoyed by what she experienced, because what she experienced wasn't always very fun. I didn't come from nurturing parents who made me their world. I came from parents who made me feel like a pain in the ass all the time. Constantly, children are meant to be seen and not heard, always pawning me off. I can remember my mom leaving me at the brownies, we'd have brownies in grammar school, and The meeting would be over. The family that was hosting the meeting would be having dinner, and I'd be waiting in the living room for hours for my mom to show up and get me. And I was so embarrassed. And those things haven't left me either. So we really get to play to this child that was not, maybe whatever your story is in your childhood, it's your job as the adult to take care of that kid now. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, let's look and see. We're talking Scorpio. No, wait, where am I going? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on Scorpio, right? Yeah. Okay. And we just did our tarot card. I lost myself. Did I just do the tarot card? Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. Okay, I'm on Scorpio. My brain. Our first angel is Serena, the angel of abundance. It's going right there with the Queen of Pentacles, making money. Rochelle, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, money is coming, prosperity. Shanti, the angel of peace. And Fiona, this is lovely. Scorpio ultimately rules transformation. So I feel like this is an opportunity to be serene as you walk through the opportunities for transformation, to live more authentically to your truth. I think that's why, Jules, I swear, I feel like this is why I've got this I love you gotta go thing in the back of my head. I never think anybody's going to stay in my life, which is why I appreciate One and Small Wildflowers beyond even anybody can even understand, because they get no benefit from me and they show up every week. They mean so much to me. Serena's being joined by the Hawk. Rochelle is being joined by the Risk card. I love this. Shanti's being joined by the Focus card. Hello. Focus, focus, focus. Isn't that the name of the game? And Fiona's being joined by the Novice. Okay, so we know that Scorpio has a tendency to be a little bit dominant. We know that Scorpio, rules power and control and billionaires and sex and kind of some of the fun stuff, rules the occult, rules spirit. In some respects, I call it spirituality, because I don't know if it's the occult as much as it's alternative ways to connect with spirit. So what do I want to say? For my Scorpios, it's time to dig deep. That 11 is all about your thought process. What are you focusing in on? And are you able to find serenity within it? And yes, it may be about money, but it has, I think, more to do with abundance in the material world of some way. Because when I look at Rochelle and the Risk card, this is about risking actually following your heart. Now, let me offer this. When we say following our heart, the very first thing we do is look at our day job, look at what we wish we could do, and then look around to see where the resources will be that will move us from one place to another. I don't think that's where you're supposed to start. I think the start here for Scorpio is to dig deep into the idea that I am ruled by the Phoenix that transforms. So if indeed I'm ruled by the Phoenix, my job in some ways is to sit in serenity as I pay attention to the signs and the omens. A few weeks ago, I talked about a blue balloon. I was asking Spirit in my building of the YouTube channel, I feel my focus is split. So when I'm focusing in on making videos, literally nobody calls and schedules appointments. And I know that's a focus. So my job is to have a sense of serenity while I am building a new platform. And my job is to watch the signs and the omens. Part of those signs, I get to self-direct. So if you remember, I asked Spirit to show me a blue balloon. And the blue balloon showed up. You could ask for a blue jay. You could ask for a cardinal. You could ask to see a rainbow. You could ask to see whatever you want, because I think this is a great opportunity for you to risk following your heart and to focus in on what brings you peace. And if you don't know what brings you peace, then it's time for you to take a nap. That's what I want to say, Scorpio, because it is through the serenity, through the quieting of the mind, that you will have some sort of epiphany, because that's what, Fiona, offers. This is a huge epiphany. And she says, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And there's the unstable new beginning. I truly believe that as a human race, we are rewriting how we work this story. I don't believe there's going to be a 50% divorce rate anymore, because I don't think everybody's going to get married anymore. They're going to choose each other and choose new dynamics in how to support each other. And the more we align to the idea that we are part of a renovation. And demo always hurts. Demo is dusty. You have to wear protective gear. You could break glass. I mean, it's nasty. But once the demo settles, the rebuilding is so exciting. So have a bit of serenity as we walk through this challenging time to bring more balance than we've ever seen before. You know, if we think about it, at least if I think about it, so many people are getting to express themselves in ways that they haven't before. And, you know, I don't know if this is going to appear controversial, but I have no button about people who are transgender. Be who you want to be. If you started off as a boy and you want to be a girl, good for you. Have fun, you know, as long as you're happy. That's all I care about. And I feel like these people or these souls have incarnated, maybe not because they want that shocking thing for the universe, as much as they're representing, let me be me. You worry about you and you let me be me. Because as that takes place, then the way that we view this ebb and flow will shift, and we will start to see abundance coming from everybody, for everybody, because they're starting to pay attention to how that really works. And how it works isn't because I work hard for you, so you give me money. How that works is because I believe and I know that my efforts will manifest in the material world. It's the soul's benefit. It's why the soul comes here. The soul doesn't actually come here for the achievement. It comes here for the journey of the achievement, for the roller coaster ride of the up and the down, and then the conquering of the down in order to come up. So how does that take place? Through serenity and through being able to pull myself up above the fray to see the signs and the omens, that as I follow my heart, as I risk it, I will feel peace. And that will come from me, because I know that my focus creates the peace. And now I start a whole new beginning of being able to actually feel inspired within myself, regardless of what's happening on the outside world. Because the outside world is going to become a bigger shit show. Sorry. Did I say shit? Okay, let's go on to our Sagittariuses. This is going to be in your fourth house of home. Neptune, I'm focusing in on the Neptune retrograde today, because this is where we're going to see potentials for illusions, for fantasy, for escapism, for propaganda to show up within our lives. And in that, being able to have an opportunity to look at it, and rather than rail against anything that may feel challenging, to see the wisdom of how do I want to get around this. Because to me, the real revolution that will happen in this world platform will be that we'll start to really think that our thoughts are things. And we'll start to be initially protective of those that are caught in the loop, right? The loop that this poverty is real and this blah, blah, blah is real. And it is real on some level. But as we align our focus, we somehow insulate ourselves from those challenging experiences and become more the representatives of the possibilities. All right, let's see, Sagittarius. You have the inspiring Ace of Wands. This to me is really a card that is not about manifestation, but about inspiration. It's that push of creativity, that excited idea. This rules Leo as well as Aries in its fire sign, and there's a potential for new growth coming up. So and it's interesting. I never noticed the hand on the bottom side of it is purple. Can you see that? So my inspiration is coming from spirit, from higher vibrational things, from, when we think about our third eye, we think about the crown chakra, we get into those purpley colors up there. So let's see where this inspiration is going to come. Neptune rules inspiration in many ways. I think being any one of the signs that are connected with spirit, and also Pisces rules ancestors, rules while Scorpio rules death per se, I feel like Pisces rules an ability to connect with ancestral energy that helps me move my story forward. All right, let's look. Our first angel is Bethany. The second is Ariel. The third is Oceana. And the final is Adriana. All right. Bethany is being joined by the eagle. Ariel's being joined by the raven. Oceana's being joined by the frog. And Adriana's being joined by the water fairy. Okay, this is, I have to laugh because yes, Oceana is making her presence known today because we truly are emotional beings. And so many times people will say, I don't care how you feel, get it done. Get it done, boo. No. This is a part of the revolution we're going on because how we feel manifests, okay? The person who's always pissed off will always find people around them to piss them off. If you look at happy people, they focus on happy stuff. Oh, this tastes good. Oh, I made this good. Oh, I didn't finish this. Oh, well, I'll get to finish it tomorrow because this is where I'm going with Sagittarius. Here we have the self-care of the connection to a bigger picture of who and what you are. This is to me the inspiration that you are not a human being, but you are a soul inhabiting a human experience that allows you to truly, when you put the two together, you can transcend this physical experience into an experience that feels divine because magic is afoot. And I want to offer it this way. Ariel says new psychic and spiritual experiences are changing the way you view yourself and the world. But I really think that this is an awareness of my conscious connection to source energy. And as I put an intention out there, and then I realize that I have picked the bones of my past clean, there's really nothing more to pick at. It's time to fly off that skull so that magic can take place. So synchronistic events can come into your experience that your thoughts have been blocking. Because thoughts and focused thoughts are like magnets. So here we are, looking in the angel's advice, not only to Oceana, asking you to swim up through the waters of your emotions to what you have chosen for your destiny, and this will release you. And I say release because it makes sense. The frog is the cleaning of the emotional house. And that happens because when we realize, this is the thing about me. I can talk about my childhood, but I don't live with my parents. They're not active in my life. My mother's not been in my life since I was 14 years old. I left, see you later, adios muchacha. And I'm still going to pick at the bones of that 40 years later? Seems unnecessary because, Sagittarius, Spirit is leading you towards the answers to your prayers, and it all happens through your emotional body. It all happens through your being able to, in some ways, realize that your self-care is a divine action that you have learned to take on a spiritual level. There's a we all have our issues. I'm not going to dismiss the issues, but how many of us carry that issue from one experience to another experience, to another experience, to another experience? I always get the guy that cheats. I always get the guy that leaves. I always get the person. Every single one of my friends tells me when I have an issue, you got this. You know what to do. And yes, I do know what to do. Okay. But that doesn't mean I don't need to have friends to support me or to be able to talk about it or want someone to acknowledge me. And then what happens is I get stuck in the loop of not being acknowledged. And then I go right back to picking at this skull. It's time to get off this skull. Fly, little birdie, fly. And look at your emotional body and say, am I tending to my emotional body? Am I being fair to myself? Am I allowing myself to be inspired to move into a new direction mentally so that I can mentally take care of my emotional body? Because that's where I'm really manifesting from. There's nobody on earth that is going to convince me that you can be pissed off and create something beautiful, you know? I think pissed off people create pissed off stuff. Thank you, Katerina, for clearing all that stuff up. As I mentioned earlier, you know, I if I get too into these issues, the Aries in me starts to get incensed, and the Taurus moon in me wants to start to ram things. I'm telling you, if I had, you know, a Learjet and I could just walk up to Congress, I would be bitching about these drug commercials like there's nobody's business. They should be outlawed. And these drug companies are just I just can't even get over it. But this is what I know about me, is that I'm not holding the right vibration when I get like that. So I want to pull myself back into my Libra energy. I want to be the arbiter and the perpetrator of harmony and peace. I want to see how disruption leads to alignment. And I want to keep pushing myself into that place until it is the most natural place I come from. It hasn't been that way yet. Well, I just appreciate everybody being so informed, because I feel like if you guys are informed, then I don't have to be that way. Oh, I have to think that's coming. I kind of think that, you know, this whole last few years, COVID, blah, 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 all of this assault on the human body. And it's just, I mean, when I think that they want to vaccinate children who are not even 18 months old, God, it kills me on the inside. These little bodies don't have any immune system yet. Leave them alone. I as a human being living in this body, get to remind myself that without this craziness right now, we would just be sailing along and letting it be okay to disempower ourselves in so many ways. So as this cuckoo comes and becomes like, this must mean we're getting to the head of the zit. And once we pop that, the pus goes out, we can all start to rebalance. All right, Capricorn, your card today is the Knight of Pentacles. Steady movement. This is steadfast. It's unchanging. This guy, there's no movement in the legs, and they're very thick legs standing there. Looks like a Clydesdale. And most of his garb is red. So I really think this is going to have something to do with your base chakra, about something in the material. Let's see what Spirit has to say. The first angel is Seraphina. The second is Isabella. The third is Athena. And the final is Omega. Capricorn, I did not mention, but this is your third house. Neptune will be going retrograde in your third house on the same day as the new moon, and will stay retrograde until December 3rd, 2022. Seraphina is being joined by the dog. Isabella is being joined by the bee. Athena is being joined by the bird. And Omega is being joined by the fire fairy. You know, you my goats know that I have a love affair with Capricorn. I have no idea why. I look at my Venuses at 10 degrees. Maybe that's why. Most of my boyfriends have been Capricorns. I think maybe my Taurus moon likes the stability of the earth signs. I'm not sure. But I will say that when I look at this spread for Capricorn, I feel like it's an opportunity for you to be steadfast and stay on track with what you really need at the base of your being. And what is that? Love and to live within a happy family. And I feel as if this is an opportunity for you to just claim it. I mean, literally stand your ground, because in the opportunity, the obstacle is Isabella saying, yes, the timing is right for you to be happy. And there's the B card. Now we have Athena in the angel's advice, and we have the Baird. This is the story that you tell yourself. And now is an opportunity to lovingly assert yourself to say, is that story still working for me? Let me offer it this way. My experience of Capricorn risings oftentimes is they are very dutiful to the people they love, very dutiful to the image of what their parents want for them, or for how they are perceived by the people who love them. And I think this is an opportunity for you not to throw the baby goat out with the bathwater, but rather to allow yourself to be steadfast about what you require on a base chakra level that allows you to feel loved, feel a sense of loyalty and sincerity coming towards you. And as you focus on your being energy, am I aware of it when people say nice things to me? Am I aware, or does it just slough off? Because it's time to lovingly assert yourself, to be aware of your history, to be aware of maybe the stories you've told yourself that I must do this because I know this other person or this other dynamic expects it out of me. Because I think as you are loyal to yourself, there's the victory card, there's happiness awaiting, and here's optimism. And if there's one thing that Capricorn or Saturn does, Saturn can be a slightly depressing. Saturn can tell us that, you know, Saturn is kind of this whole thing right now, those old rules, coming back to haunt us. And I want to offer this for my Capricorns: a loyalty to your own base chakra, your own sacral chakra. What makes me feel secure in the world, and what do I truly love? Because I think Capricorn has to dig a little bit deeper to figure that out. I think that if we think about Neptune being here in this third house, there's the third house is naturally ruled by Gemini. And this would be my teammates, my workmates, my school, my community. And how am I representing for them? And does it align with my own happiness? Because I feel as if it's time to really review that in a way, because this little green thing, at the very top of his head and at the top of the card, makes me feel like it's my heart. And all this time I've been steadfast here on security, on what my base chakra needs. But if I'm going to truly feel secure, I get to play to my heart. I get to be loyal to the people that I love in the way that I love, in a renovated way that allows my being energy to sit in a more baby goat energy, in a more happy goat, versus where I've been. It's time to assert yourself past your history. And in doing so, you will find victory and you'll find new inspiration on this planet. Now, this is a 6-month process. So as you start to become aware, it's not about immediately taking action. I think this is an opportunity to sit for a minute and let it percolate, let it marinate. Because again, being a Capricorn and being ruled by Saturn, you're going to naturally think in what's expected of you. And then you'll go back to see if you can be happy within it. And I feel like that's the part that gets to break up a little bit. Okay. Let's go on to our Aquarius's rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay, our tarot card is, Aquarius, this is a beautiful energy. This is one of the few cup cards that's filled with wonderful things, growing flowers. And there's the offering of love from this little boy to this little girl. And it's an innocence. There's nothing here contrived. This is just about happiness. And I think it's so beautiful that the little boy is actually smelling the flower. So for my Aquariuses, I think this is about paying attention to what's growing in your life and allowing that feeling to sort of supersede this adult that's leaving the area, the adult responsibilities and obligations. So let's look and see where this might be happening, because this is your second house, Aquarius. Neptune will be transiting your second house, which is your self-worth. It is your possessions. It is your sense of being. And Aquarius being an innovative sign, ruling space and really ruling kind of those things that we discover as human beings. They're not obvious. They're what's under a microscope or what's through a telescope. And I feel like this is really an opportunity to be excited about what is growing in your life and really walking away from the structures that may be oppressive or feel oppressive. Our first angel for Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums is Archangel Michael. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Fiona. And the final is Celeste. This is really fascinating to me because, I don't know if I'm being clear, but I'm kind of viewing Neptune's retrograde over the next 6 months as an opportunity to look at differing opinions and approaching them from a new way. So most people want to war against a differing opinion. They want to say you're wrong and I'm right. And I think this is about not only creating a win-win, but in doing so, being aware of how is my ripple effect going out. Because Archangel Michael's being joined by the love card. Archangel Gabriel's being joined by the movement card. Fiona's being joined by Merlin. And Celeste is being joined by the transformational death card. I am so incredibly convinced that as we move closer and closer into the Aquarian age, the concept that my thoughts are actually the seedlings, the platform, the beginning of my next experience is going to become common. It's going to become something that we learn at an early age, and it is really going to transform and revolutionize this world. So, Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, Archangel Michael is asking you to make the divine life changes that lead you towards love. And I want to offer it this way. In this respect, this is an innocence of love. This is not sexual love. This is love that things grow when we stand in the vibration of happiness, of innocence, of things can be more right than they are wrong. Every single one of these cups is flourishing in some way or another. So how does this happen? Aquarius, it happens through our communications, through what we think, through what we speak, through what we write, through what we teach. And then what we'll see, which is so beautiful, is this feeling that things are coming into balance. Now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And there's Merlin, justice, alchemy, and balance. And I want to offer it this way, because as we, as humans, see imbalance, we'll be like, oh, their focus isn't aligned. We'll no longer villainize people for their focus. We will understand that they're just not quite up to snuff, up to par, they haven't had the experience to anchor in this new line of thinking. Because here is Celeste. And I always say it a million times. You can move me to a new home or a new place of employment. I think the way I think. So now this is an opportunity for me to transform the way I think, to look for the ideas. Where is the disruption divine? How is this apparent icky situation, this apparent war against the worlds, actually transforming us into more intentional manifestors? And if anybody can lead the charge on that, it's an Aquarius. So I think what you're going to do is experience this new sort of spiritual way of approaching your possessions, approaching your how you put your skills out into the world. The second house naturally rules our voice. So how you speak is indicative of how you think. And as those come into alignment with love, we really shift the way we experience our everyday home and our work. And that'll be a blessing. All right. Next, we go on to our Pisces. This is in your first house. Hey, Joe Schmo. Good to see you back. Nice to have you in the room again. Okay. Pisces, first house. Let's see. What is your tarot card? Ah, the cup of love. Look at that. You know, it's so interesting to me because when we get to the aces, the hand always has a little bit of a different hue to it. And in this particular one, I feel like I see the thumb holding the base of the cup so that it can be balanced as my cup overflows. And there we see the dove of peace. So let's see what this has to offer you. When I look at this too, I can't help but notice the little lily pads there. All the frogs have jumped off of them. So they're off somewhere doing something. Okay, here we go. Our first angel for our Pisces is Xana. The second is Archangel Michael. The third is Rochelle. And the final is Akasha. Archangel Michael is also the great protector. So as we have the courage to make those divine life changes, we will be protected. And I want to offer it this way because the protection isn't really a blanket from spirit. It's a law of attraction protection. Because as our focus is on something we enjoy, we attract the enjoyment of that. If our focus is on something that is disruptive, we will bring that in as well. And it's not about assigning blame. You've got to remember the human is trained to look for a problem, look for a deficit, look for an issue. We're not trained to look for happiness. That gets squelched when we're about 6. Xana is being joined by the diplomatic deer. Archangel Michael is being joined by the cat. Rochelle is being joined by the truth card. And Akasha is being joined by the trust card. Okay, so Pisces, this is your first house. And you are naturally ruled by Neptune. So as Neptune is going retrograde, and it's going to go to the 22nd degree. So this is really going to mostly affect the people who have a square to Pisces or people who have an opposition to Pisces in those later degrees. And I want to offer it this because the deer oftentimes will represent fear for me. And I'm also kind of thinking that it's time to be gentle and diplomatic with yourself as you may find yourself disillusioned by things. You may find yourself, the flip side of Pisces is deceit and disillusionment and addiction, escapism. So here, I think, is an opportunity for Pisces to really realize that they do feel like they're in a bit of fear. And my job right now is to be gentle with myself as I look around myself, and maybe I'm not feeling so much love coming towards me. But this is what I want to say. If indeed Pisces, rising moon, sun, or stelliums needs to put up healthy boundaries, because again, you're a mutable sign, and sometimes we connect with people who maybe aren't good for us. And Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to implement a bit of independence and healthy boundaries, and to look inside of your heart, because there is the deeper truth. And that truth can be that I love this person or I love this situation, but it's not quite in balance. When I look at all those, I kind of can't help but look at the tarot card. And when they drew these up, why did they make all those water drops? Where are the frogs on those lily pads? They're not there. So to me, I kind of look at it and say, well, maybe they leapt off those lily pads because they weren't feeling love in that moment. Because Akasha is the teacher, and the teacher is teaching you trust for your heart and your truth. And if you implement healthy boundaries and don't commingle your energy with too many people who are not of a like vibration, you will actually feel your cup filling up and overflowing. I feel as if, Jupiter is the co-ruler of Pisces. So it's going to ask me to really go into a foreign way of thinking about how I'm perceiving my life, move into a new direction of some kind. And if for some reason you find relationships going away or things feeling like you're being, there may be things you were oblivious to at one point, and now you're starting to realize them, or you're starting to see that they're imbalanced. And as you start to stand in your own balance, other people may be arguing with you because they're used to you not being in balance, or used to you being more cooperative than you're being right now. This is an opportunity to truly trust a bigger picture as you walk through this balancing act. Look at that 22. We talked about the new moon being on a 22 day. Well, this Neptune retrograde is going on a 22 day, meaning that 6/28/2022 reduces down to a 22. This is a master number of cooperation and commingling of energies, but this time, this is a commingling of the truth of your heart, not what you're being told from the outside. It's one thing in my world, as being made up the way my chart is, I'm not really easily swayed in any way. I'm not easy. You can't make me do something I don't want to do, which is the good news, bad news, because whenever I got into trouble, it was always my fault because I wanted to do it. So, Pisces, be brave. Make sure your cup is being filled. And if for some reason it's not being filled, I don't know if this is really about trying to jump from one lily pad to another, but maybe standing still and waiting for this dove of peace to fly in a little bit. Okay, let's go on to our Aries. Pisces is your 12th house. And your tarot card is the Wheel of Fortune. Now, this is very interesting because the Wheel of Fortune can be going up or down. And when we look at it, the Sphinx is holding a sword at the top of that wheel. And I think that's very, very powerful because this is a 10. The 10 represents a 1. The 1 represents thought. And the Sphinx is holding a sword, which also represents thought. So in order to go up the wheel, it's a mastering of the thought. And the thing about Aries is that sometimes if Aries feels a little bit of fire under their tail, they're going to take action before they actually think about it. And this is why I'm glad I'm older now, because I used to take action without thinking about it all the time. And I'm really lucky I didn't get beat up by strangers more often. Neptune conjunct Mercury can be a little bit challenging, but I have Neptune in not a conjunction, a tight conjunction, but fairly tight. My Neptune is at 6 degrees Scorpio, and my Mercury is at 13 degrees Scorpio. And so, some astrologers will say that means you can talk to the dead. I have it in the 8th house, so that also helps. But I want to offer it this way because Neptune is a generational planet. So while it is personal to you in some way, Michelle, it may also be indicating that as you are aware of your thought process, what you speak, and what you inadvertently teach other people, Neptune can go into its highest vibrations there. So let's see. Our first angel is Fiona. This is for Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. The second is the Patience. The third is Layla. And the final is Mystique. I think one of the most important things, I shouldn't say most important because I feel like I have a lot of important opportunities in my life, but one of my old bosses um, was a wise man who told me that when I get incensed about somebody's unfair behavior, I become an unfair person. And that was very powerful because I did not want to be the perpetrator of the crimes that I was trying to exterminate in my Aries energy. So Fiona is being joined by the serpent. Patience is being joined by the spider. Layla's being joined by the trust card. And Mystique is being joined by the queen, Aries. I truly believe that you are being offered an opportunity to see how your mind works, to see how you take action. And in doing so, you're able to shed a skin. This is not asking you not to be of an Aries energy. Aries is the hero. Aries is the fireman that goes in and saves people. Aries is the one who is willing to go into that courageous place where others have not been. And frankly, going into a forest where nobody's been, it could be scary because you don't know what's in there. But this is where I'm going with this. I believe that the wheel could be coming up for you, Aries. You've got Jupiter in your first house. You've got Neptune going retrograde in your 12th house as you dig deep into your story, your history, your own spirituality, and have the courage to really observe how you show up within your relationships and the network of people that you deal with. I think that's super important because while you may sometimes get a rap for being all fiery and angry and the warrior, I think there's plenty of people that would want you to be standing beside them if they were to go into battle because you are brave, because you are courageous. So now I think what Spirit is doing is saying, how do you want that to look for you, Aries? Because I don't think you want to be categorized or compartmentalized as the crazy warrior anymore, but rather the peaceful warrior. So Spirit is saying, in order to get to this place of observing yourself in a way that serves you, it's about trusting your thought process as you connect with Spirit. And I want to offer it this way, because the connection to Spirit will remind me that I am a vibration and that what I think of, speak of, read about is creating my world. So now I have an opportunity to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions as I pay attention to the dark side is leading me into the light, which is giving me greater opportunity to receive bounty, to receive and be fertile within my life. Because now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to the shedding of a skin. And the shedding is not the extermination of the snake, but the snake being of new energy. So I think that this is super important because as we go from Neptune being in Pisces, okay, it's going to head towards Aries. And when I started this broadcast, I was talking about how the United States Civil War started on April 12th, 1861, when Neptune had just entered Aries. So this is an opportunity to take the way that we war and turn it into a more productive energy. So I think of it this way. As an Aries rising, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I know that the louder I get and the more I run over their conversation, the less they are likely to hear me. So if I want to be heard, then I have to be willing to shed the skin of being right in this moment and allowing that person to express themselves, and or that situation to express itself. And as I'm observant of that, then I do trust a bigger picture, because if for some reason that situation goes away, then Spirit will bring something in that is much more aligned to me and will make me feel much more loved and much more honored and received as a nurturing energy. I think that's one of the things that bugs me the most about how people portray Aries. I think I've told you, I worked with Brian Coulter, and, when we did my past life reading, he looked at my South Node in Aries and just made me angry and resentful. And I really didn't like that. It made me angry and resentful. But when I thought about it, I thought, oh, he's pre-wired to put me in a compartment. And I've evolved past that because what he was saying was true at one point in my life. But as I've grown, I've learned to really focus where I put my sword, to really think about how do I want that to, because the sword can cut me out of a problem or it could lob off a needed body part. So I really want to use this sword with an intention, with an awareness. And when I do that, miraculous solutions take place. Okay. I got to mosey along here. We're going on to our Tauruses, then our Geminis, and we will be done for today. Again, I'm not focusing in on the new moon much because I did a separate video on that. You can find it on the channel, and I did the timestamps for you. Okay. On to our Tauruses. It's a big one. Total transformation is being offered as Neptune traverses your 11th house of friends, but more so your hopes and your dreams. Oftentimes when we think of the 11th house, we talk about Aquarius and science and innovation and the big internet and the web and all of that. But we forget that it's an Upachaya house that offers us bounty and offers our hopes and our dreams a platform to be realized in the physical world. So this death card very much plays to the idea that Uranus is transiting through Taurus. The North Node is going through Taurus. So as Neptune goes retrograde in your 11th house of friends and networks and hopes and dreams, it'll give you an opportunity to really revisit what is important to you and what gets to transform beyond what it has been. Let's see. For those of you that are just entering the room, I started with Cancer and working my way towards Gemini. I've decided my Libra wants to be fair to all signs. And so we're going to start the broadcast on the sign that it is during that month. So for the next few weeks, we'll start with Cancer, and then we'll go on to starting with Leo, and then we'll move into Virgo and all of those things. Okay, here we go. Taurus, where will there be transformation and rebirth? Rochelle, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart. Ray, connection to spirit. Astera, reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. And Daniel, the angel of marriage. Wow. That's pretty cool. I have a client who has a stellium of planets in Taurus, and I recently did a reading for this person, and I felt like marriage and love was on the books. And every time the last few weeks I get to Taurus, I remember Daniel's showing up, and I can't help but think about that person. Okay, because this is, this death card is interesting because it's total transformation, but the human in its flat way of thinking will see this as death of the physical. I don't see that at all. So Rochelle is being joined by the wealth card. Ray is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Astera is being joined by the partnership card. And Daniel's being joined by the wind fairy. As you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, harmonious wealth is coming to you. And I really want to offer this for my Tauruses because when Uranus was transiting Aries, I was not really paying attention to astrology much. And then Uranus hit my ascendant at 26 degrees Aries. And I completely blew up my life, quit my job, started doing this work full time. I didn't have any money in the bank to kind of give myself a platform, but I had an intention and I had a focus. And I kept saying to Spirit, if I'm really meant to do this work, then I will build it and you will bring the people to support the endeavor. Pardon me. Taurus, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, the things that you need will come into alignment and you will feel a sense of harmonious wealth. And part of this now is about your truth, about what you really want. And then we have Ray. The truth is, when you talk to spirit, you don't have to be shy. You don't have to be sheepish in the story of your life. You can say, Spirit, I haven't felt loved in a long time, and I'm not sure I know how to feel loved. Because, when I think as a Taurus moon, I think I can get very stubborn and stuck in my pain. And if I'm stubborn and stuck in my pain, then I'm focusing in on my pain. If I'm focusing in my pain, then I'm inadvertently bringing in more of those experiences. So, Spirit, help me to have the self-respect to really step away from the things that haven't served me and to focus on the things that I want to serve me, because I believe this is straight up with intimate love. Astera says to reach for the star with your dreams and desires and not to compromise. And there's the partnership card. So, if I think about the idea that Taurus's 11th house is Pisces, and Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune can feel a little bit erosive, can feel as if things are, the ocean is taking everything out with it. And I think that this is an opportunity for Taurus to really say, you know what, sometimes what spirit removes or what gets removed from me is what needed to be removed in order for me to live authentically. And now I'm going to, in all my partnerships, reach for the stars with my dreams and desires, which means thank you, Spirit, for bringing me people who like to talk about astrology. Thank you, Spirit, for bringing me people in my life that even when we disagree, we find harmony within the disagreement. Thank you, Spirit, for me being able to feel connected in ways that I haven't felt before, because I've been doing the hard work of transformation. I've been seeing where there were parts of myself that weren't serving me, and I'm willing to allow them to go to their proper place, because here is Daniel, the angel of marriage, and here is the wind fairy. And this is very important because the wind fairy is an 11. The 29 reduces down to an 11, my thoughts. And Daniel represents my history in relationships. So and this is all relationships. And when I go to the 11th house, my relationship with my network, my relationship with my hopes and my dreams, my relationship with my money, my relationship with my internet followers. It can be all of those things. But more so, I'm going to hopes and dreams. I'm going to the idea of Upachaya house, and that I am willing to sit in that Saturnian energy that Aquarius co-rules, meaning Saturn co-rules the 11th house. Now we superimpose the spirituality of Pisces on that house and the tenacity of Taurus to stand for their harmonious wealth and to really dig deep into how do I connect with others and do I feel valuable? Because the little shadow side of that house, or Taurus, is to feel insecure. So I'm willing to transform that insecurity into a bit of a moment where I get to really take a pause and look and see if it's true or if it's an old story I keep bringing into the new dynamic. Okay, I think that's it. Let's go on to our final sign today, Gemini. Lucy, you have some very, very, I think you have some very high vibrational musings in our chat, and I appreciate you bringing them up because I think they're all things that, we get to consider. I think I personally have noticed within my life that there are layers and layers of my thought. And as I've become more authentic to my truth, I realize there are things that I have done that I didn't even know I was doing weren't based on my own happiness. A few weeks ago, I think I talked about the brown chair I used to have. And I remember I just started working for myself and I was brave. I bought new furniture. I'm like, oh my goodness, I went to Ashley Furniture, bought it on time. If you pay it off in a year, it's free interest, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, I can do it. And then I bought a whole house full of furniture thinking that my sister and her family would come visit me and hang out and sit on my furniture. I hated the chair, hated the furniture, and none of them came to sit on it. And when I had the epiphany, I got my loud yellow chair instead. So please, Taurus, take a minute, dig deeper into your wants and desires and allow them to transform. Our final sign, Gemini. Okay. All right, Gemini. Don't panic. We have the Three of Swords here. Little bit challenging. This is a card of heartache. It's a card of betrayal. But if you look closely, the card is not bleeding. There is no blood. This is very clean in many ways. And if you think about it, the holes that those swords have put in the heart are bringing an illumination of some kind. So I want to offer, let's see what Spirit has to say, but I believe that if there's a disruption in your life, if there is a place where you feel that your heart is being pulled into a storm of some kind, maybe it's time to really think about where your boat is. You know, maybe this heartache is actually going to be something that is very temporary because you're finally connecting in many ways to what's going on and why. I see those swords and I can't help but think of thought. I can't help but think that the 2, 3, and 4 represent the cardinal air. Cardinal air is Libra. Have I been fair to myself? Have I been allowing other people? You know, this is you and 2 other people could potentially be creating this heartache. Sometimes, when I was younger, they used to say that was a card of cheaters. They'd look at, somebody's cheating on you. And I don't know if I think that's true, but I think that there's kind of, maybe there's my truth, their truth, and then there's the real truth, which is the neutral truth, and that humans assign value to something. So let's look, Gemini. Our first angel is Shanti, the angel of peace. The second is Caressa. The third is Archangel Uriel, and the final is Fiona. I don't know if I told you guys this story before, but years ago, I was living in Southern California, and I was so sick of living here. And I just kept saying for like a year, I just want to wipe the slate clean and start over. I just want to wipe the slate clean and start over. Then I moved to North Carolina. I spent about a year in North Carolina. That was an interesting endeavor. And I came home. And in the move home, they wiped the slate clean and I started over. I wonder if Gemini has been chanting something or saying something to themselves that is initially appearing to break your heart, but it's really an opportunity to bring more balance than you've had before. Let's see. Shanti's being joined by the cow, abundance, asking and receiving. Caressa's being joined by the letting go of fear card. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the communications card, and Fiona is being joined by the Baird. Okay. So I don't think this is as bad as it appears on the onset. Whenever we see the swords in a challenging position, we all brace, but that's not necessarily true, because in the foundational position is an opportunity to feel more peace. And there's an opportunity to feel more abundance and more connection with the ebb and the flow of that abundance, because this is an opportunity for Gemini to let go of their fear. Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits you. And the letting go card is funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. This is your opportunity. The angels are asking you, are you spending so much time pissed off? Because this is about anger and frustration. And there's the communications card. And these 3 swords are representing some kind of communication, some kind of thought process, and something that doesn't feel fair. So let's say that you've been in a situation where you've been giving it your all, Gemini. You've been working hard. You've been, dependable, showing up on time, and you're just not getting any fruits from your labor. I think this is really an opportunity to claim them. And that claiming is Fiona saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And then we have the Baird. And I actually think this is not a releasing from your history, but rather the enchantment of storytelling now. Now I want to go to the idea of poetry and music. And that as you really stand in the vibration of, you know what? It's okay if this ends or if this starts to end, because Neptune is going to bring up some kind of, this is your 10th house of career. I didn't even say that part. Sorry, Gemini, apologize. So this is going to have something to do with your career, something to do with what may feel like a loss within your career. But what you may find out is that somebody's been blowing smoke up your skirt for a while, and, oh yeah, we're going to do this for you. And, oh, we're going to do that for you. Can you do this for me first? And you keep doing things for other people first, and you're not getting your bounty back. It's kind of time to take your heartache off the table and start to really say to Spirit, I'm ready to feel some peace. I'm ready to have my life be more abundant. And this is one of the gifts that I feel like I've received in the process of building my practice. There is a part of me that has always felt like my life would get better as I got older. There is a part of me that connects to my earth trines. I have 2 of them. Saturn, my moon, Venus, and Pluto are all connected in those 2 grand trines. And so when I go through these periods of feeling really financially challenged, and I have for the last few months, I know that Spirit will always take care of me. So rather than looking for how can I make money or running out to offer discounts because I'm in scarcity, I do the opposite. I say, thank you, Spirit, for filling my calendar. Thank you for giving me the awareness that when my attention is over here, I'm not nurturing something over here. So I want to offer to my Geminis that it's time to be loyal to yourself. And if indeed you've been loyal in a work environment to other people, or if somehow you've been loyal to your public perception and it's not authentic to you, then this is truly an opportunity for you to claim your space back and to rewrite your story. And to let Neptune kind of transform into the spiritual side of whatever that challenging moment is, has some benefit as I move away from it, or I move towards something that's more authentic to me. I kind of feel like this has to do with fairness, people being fair to you in a public way. And I want to offer it to this way. Is my perception as the Gemini, is my frustration with the situation holding me in a pattern because I want this to be fixed before I can move on to that? Because some things are not meant to be balanced before they're moved. I'm meant to move away before the heart starts to bleed. I'm supposed to take this illumination and know there's a rainbow. We don't get rainbows without clouds. So that's what I want to say. This is going to be a very powerful next 6 months. There's going to be a lot of things that come up. I believe in general, the Pisces rules the 12th house. So I do believe we're going to find a lot of things are going to be reversed. Oh, we found out this about this. And oh, now we found out this about that. And I don't want to fall into the disillusionment that this retrograde could perpetrate. I want to really try to stay focused on the idea that if this propaganda, the darker side of Neptune, does not rise to the top of the waters, I won't be able to see it, to swim away from it. So, and I would say this too, if you have had issues with any sort of addiction to shopping, addiction to food, addiction to sex, we don't even need to go to drugs. That seems kind of obvious. It may be the next 6 months, there may be a certain revisiting of those ideas as well. How do I escape when I feel the world is too heavy for me? Because what I would love to see is start to use those spiritual dynamics of connection to spirit, taking a walk, putting your feet in water, asking for signs and omens so that you can feel that ebb and flow more succinctly rather than feeling like the tide is trying to pull you out and drown you. Okay, that's it for me for this week. I appreciate you all showing up and hanging in here with me for these 2 hours. I try to make it shorter, but with the tarot card involved and Teri's ability to talk endlessly, I can't seem to shorten this show. I love you, small wildflowers. I love you, Juan. You are my 2 to my 3 musketeers, my D'Artagnan and my Artemis, to my whoever my name is, I don't know. Hugs and kisses to you all. I'll be back next Sunday with more Traversing the Transits with Teri. And in the meantime, represent us. Keep your focus on you. Keep your focus on what makes you feel Porthos. I like that. Thank you, Juan. I'll take it. I want you to remember you're important. And if you're happy, even if nobody else agrees with your happiness, you're sending a ripple effect and you're changing the world. So, peace out. See you next week, everybody.